Today we're going to be taking it to the next step. We're not just writing on Christmas ornaments, we are also going to bejewel them. Now this is part 2 in an ornament decorating series. And if you haven't watched last week's tutorial, it is linked down below so that you can see that one, because that lists all of the different materials and exactly which pens you should pick for your ornaments. You're going to need the exact same supplies as we needed for just doing writing. So that's your ornament and your pen. But we're also going to add in the jewels. There are 2 types of jewels that you can get. There's the type where it already has a sticky back, and then there's the type where it doesn't have a sticky back. And I happen to have lots that do not have a sticky back. Now the reason that I have these is because I overbought them one time when they were on sale. That's the honest reason. But it's also really nice because these come in a selection and variety of sizes and colors, more than you would find in the ones that have a sticky back. That's usually a typical 1 or 2 size situation, or 1 or 2 colors. So these ones I just got at Michael's. Anywhere that you can do jewelry creating, you will find these. So they're not in the scrapbook aisle or the painting aisle. Look for the jewelry making area. Now it's your choice if you want to get an assortment of sizes or if you want to go with just one size. And for this ornament right here, it was done with all one size of crystal. So it's more than possible to use just one size. But I'm going to take it up a notch and also add in some of the downstrokes with larger crystals. I'll show you what I mean when we get started on the project. Aside from crystals, you're going to want a pair of tweezers. And you're also going to need some glue in order to get these crystals onto your ornament. I'm going to be using Tombow Mono multi-liquid glue, and this is a permanent adhesive glue that I used for this piece. It dries clear, and one thing that's nice and also not so nice is that it takes a while for it to set. So if one of your jewels goes to the side a little bit, you still have some time to correct it before it's dry. That's why it's a little bit different than a hot glue gun. But it does end up giving you that great adhesion that we want so that they're not falling off while it's on the Christmas tree. Now, before we get started, grab a scrap of paper and a pencil so that we can sketch out the letter for the ornament. We're going to be creating 2 different ornaments with jewels. One will be sort of a basic warm-up type of ornament, but it still looks absolutely stunning. And that is one that is a snowflake design. A snowflake has 6 lines to it, and then you can decorate those 6 lines any way you want. The easiest way probably to decorate it is just to put these little branches coming off. And while it doesn't look super amazing on a piece of paper like this, I definitely suggest testing it out to ensure that you can draw one before you move on to your ornament. Once you move on to your ornament, you're going to want to do an assortment of sizes and even snowflake endings to cover your entire ornament. After this, we're going to be placing jewels in and around the snowflake design in order to bejewel your ornament. Take one of your pens, take one of your ornaments, and you can get started drawing. We're sort of combining the best of both worlds here, a pen and some jewels. One thing when you're drawing your snowflake is that you want to make sure that they are all sort of an equal length, and you can always fudge it a little bit if you need to add a little bit more like I did there in order to get a snowflake that looks well balanced and still round overall. Smaller snowflakes don't need as much detail. You can just go in and do something simple like dots on the end. Once you have snowflakes drawn over the entire thing, and I wasn't too sure about the silver on the white, I thought it might be hard to see, but it actually looks absolutely gorgeous. So don't assume that you need to always use black or white. Silver's a really nice option as well. You're going to be putting some jewels on this, and it's a little bit tricky because you're probably going to want to put your hand all over, but the pen takes a while to dry. So a trick that you can do is to grab a thing of washi tape, put it down, and use that as a little stand for your ornament as you're bejeweling it. For a project like this, it's okay to only have one size of crystal to work with. I typically will pull out a little pile of crystals right here and then use tweezers to pick them up and carefully place them onto the ornament. To make it easy to get them onto the ornament, put them all sparkle side up because it will be much simpler to then pick them up and place them on the ornament. If it's upside down, it can get very tricky and you turn into a bit of a contortionist. Now you have two ways of doing the glue. One would be to put a little pile of glue to the side, dip your crystal into that, and then put it onto the ornament. But I find that that sometimes will stop the crystal from coming back up and it just ends up sinking into the quicksand that is the glue. So what I prefer to do is take the glue and put it directly onto the ornament. Now, one other thing that I really like about this glue is that it comes in a pen tip option. So you can simply use this as you would a pen and put the glue directly onto your ornament. When you turn your ornament on your washi tape, just make sure that you place it down carefully afterwards rather than smudging it, and try not to handle it too much with your hands. I think the easiest place to put a jewel is right in the center of the ornament. You can simply put a little dot of glue on those centers and then start to add your jewels. You're going to want to pick up the jewel with a light touch, place it onto the glue in the ornament. And that one there had a little bit too much glue. It came out, it really meant it when I first started. So a little bit less glue. You'll still have the same adhesion, but you won't have that glue puffing out around. If you do end up with glue like that, you have two options. One would be to take the jewel off, wipe that glue off very carefully, and then try it again. Your other option is to just leave it because it's going to dry clear anyways. So it could just be a little extra sparkle around the outside of the jewel. Go all the way around your ornament, bejeweling the center of the snowflakes. But sometimes I think that's just not enough. There are also some empty spaces in between snowflakes, and that's a great opportunity for a crystal here and there. I like to just put dots in those empty spaces and then go in and add a jewel. Make sure that every so often you're cleaning off your tweezers so that you're not getting glue building up. When you have glue building up, your tweezers are going to stick to the jewels, and you don't want that to happen. You want the jewel to stick to the glue dot as soon as it touches. The ornament can be a little bit tricky to move once you have some jewels on, so we're going to place this to the side and finish bejeweling the other side of it later. Let's move on to doing a monogram ornament with just jewels. Now for the monogram ornament, the difficulty of this is going to be up to you because it depends how much you like yourself that day. If you like yourself and you don't want to drive yourself crazy, probably just doing monoline with all the same size of crystal will be the way to go. It can still look absolutely beautiful. It's based on the letter that you create. But if you're a bit of a glutton for torture, like I'm going to be today, then you can go in and vary the size of your crystals in order to get thinner upstrokes and thicker downstrokes like you would with a brush pen. Sketch out the letter that you want to do. I'm going to do a D, and you want to think about your letter itself. So this one, it's a little bit top heavy, not so much on the bottom. So sketch it out until you feel like you have a D that will work on an ornament. Now, the reason that this one won't work so well is because it's going to be long and it will only take up a little bit of the ornament moving sideways. Whereas if I make it fatter, then it will fill more of the space to the sides as well. So consider that when you are writing out your letter. You want to find a way to plump it up a little bit, just like the Christmas season, and make sure that it will fill lots of space but not be too tall on your ornament. Now, once you have your letter determined, you're going to figure out which areas are going to be thicker than others. So those would be the downstroke areas, like this area right here, that downstroke, and if you choose to put some up in the front, and even sometimes people choose to add some weight to the back there. And while I personally also like to put a little flare at the end of a letter there, that's going to be really hard to do with crystals. So for the ends of your lines, try to just do thin crystals. Don't plump it up like it's a downstroke. Now, how do you move this onto your ornament? It's a very good question. There are two ways that you can do it. You can either draw straight onto your ornament with the glue first, fingers crossed, or you can first sketch it lightly with a thin pen. Now, be careful when you choose your pen, because if you choose a thick one, that's going to show underneath all of the crystals. And we sort of want it to look like the crystals were just placed directly on and there was no cheat sheet. And it's not cheating, it's a strategy. So if you take a really, really thin pen, I'm even going to need to find a thinner one than this, you can sketch your letter on there first so that you have a guideline for both your glue and your crystals. Let me find that smaller pen. I found that smaller pen. And when you're doing it, you do want to try to be quite precise with your letter, very similar to your sketch. So I like to put it beside so that I can see my reference right beside where I'm working. That's just a little trick that you might want to employ in order to be able to quickly glance between the two. A nice fat body. And if you need to adjust your pen as you go, you can do short strokes. You don't need to worry about it being perfect because this is all going to be covered by crystals. So there we go. There's a D sketched on. Now there's a guideline for adding the crystals. Again, pull out a roll of washi tape so that you can balance your ornament. And if it doesn't work, you can always take some of that washi tape, put a little bit around here, and then stick this onto the washi tape ring. That's what I'm going to do because this one definitely is not following the rules. Now again, being a glutton for punishment today, I'm going to do some slightly larger jewels on those downstrokes, which means that you will want to, if you decide to do this too, expand your jewel collection. So right now I have a smaller size, and you want to also put a few piles going from smallest to largest. You can decide if you want to put all of your glue on at once or if you want to do a little bit at a time. And while I would love to tell you which of those options to do, it's pretty much up to you. But I would say that as you add your jewels, you probably want to do it from top to bottom so that you aren't then trying to cross over a jewel you've already laid. I'm going to start out just by adding a little bit of glue along that line, and you want to add it very carefully. If you have any glue drying at the top of your glue container, make sure that you take that off so that it's nice and clean and you can really control the placement of the glue. Again, you don't want to put too much glue because you don't want it to come spilling out the sides, and you don't need a lot in order to make sure that all of the jewels will stick perfectly. Even if your line of glue isn't perfect, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Don't try to clean it up because it's only there as a base for your jewels. So I only did a little bit because I don't want it to start to dry before we have a chance to actually put our crystals on here. Think about the areas that would be the smallest. That would usually be the top or transition point of a line. So you'll want to take your very smallest jewel and probably not put it upside down on your ornament like I just did, but place it right side up and get one or two on there to establish that line thickness. I find that for pushing them into the glue, it's easier for me to use my finger than the pointy tweezers. That was a whoopsie-daisy. But if you have good control with your tweezers, maybe you practice surgery on the weekends, then you can just use your tweezers if you've got that control. So I've placed 3 up at the top. And now your line, as it starts to get thicker, you're going to want to place slightly larger jewels. I've made the choice to put another one of these tinier jewels there, because you shouldn't start to have downstroke thickness until you're actually in a downstroke zone. And here the line isn't quite going down yet. So now that it started to go down, we can start to use slightly larger jewels. Place them on very carefully and then give them a little push to make sure that they are actually stuck into that glue. You could also turn your ornament to make it a little bit easier to add those jewels on there, because then you're not having to work around any other jewels, you're just working in a clean area. Oh, right in the eye!
Oh, right in the eye!
Did you see that? Right in the eye. Now, as you continue down the line and it starts to curve back below onto itself, you're going to want to thin those jewels back out. Always make sure too that you have glue ahead of where you're adding your jewels, because you don't want to have to try to add new glue right all the way up to where you're currently working. It can just get a little bit messy. So these areas right here where the downstroke and the upstroke or any lines are crossing over one another, you don't just want to continue barreling through with the upstroke. You actually want to put that downstroke size jewel in there instead, because that is actually the main jewel your eye should be drawn to. So you might need to interrupt your line to put one of these larger jewels in here and then continue on with the smaller jewels. Remember that as you're transitioning to those downstrokes, you slowly want to increase the size of the jewel. So put 1 or 2 of one size jewel and then move up to the next size jewel and put another 1 or 2. You want to do that slow progression so that it looks like it's slowly increasing and then again slowly decreasing on the way out. Now, it definitely takes more planning and precision and also more crystals to do the upstrokes and downstrokes in your letter, but I think that it creates an absolutely beautiful effect in the end. So you can choose to either do monoline with one size of crystal or use a variety of sizes and add in some of those thicks and thins. Both are gorgeous. If you have a little extra patience, I would suggest giving this one a whirl because it just has that little extra oomph that really can make you win Christmas. Not that that's what it's all about, but it kind of is. Put this to the side so that it can dry, and while you might be tempted to bejewel the rest of it, I would suggest leaving it with just the monogram on it so that that really shines on the ornament. Haha, get it? And let's go back to our snowflake to add jewels to the other side. Now, while these have started to dry, so there's a bit of resistance if you push at them. If you were to pull them right off, they would come off. It takes about 24 hours for this glue to fully dry and harden and cure, which means that it can't be pushed or moved anymore. So still be careful as you handle your ornament and turn it and place it very carefully inside the washi tape. Now we can work on the other side of the ornament without worrying about any of those jewels on the first side falling off. So I would say that the other ornament took 5, 10, probably 15, but it felt like it went so quickly, minutes to complete. So that means that you don't have to wait too long to be able to turn over your snowflake ornament and work on the other side. Again, we want to put that dot of glue right in the center of the snowflakes. First, make sure we get them all. We don't want to miss any. No, we're good there. And then fill in some of the empty space with a glue dot for an extra jewel and a little extra sparkle in between the snowflakes. So now we've taken our ornament decorating another step further. It's not just pens and writing on ornaments because, well, it's gorgeous. Everyone's doing it now. So we were pushing it further today. With jewels, you can take it a step further where you're combining your pens with the jewels to create something like a bedazzled snowflake ornament. Or you can take it back into the lettering zone, but this time using the crystals to create your letter. Think about creating a beautiful monogram ornament for someone really special in your life. Because let's be honest, it took too long to do it for someone not so special. Find that special person, whip out your paper, sketch out their letter, and then put it onto the front of the ornament with a very thin line marker before you follow that with some glue and create your perfect crystal letter. I hope that you have fun creating your own beautiful Christmas ornaments this year. You can stick with just pen and put words on your ornament, or you can also add in some sparkle. You have so many choices now, and I can't wait to see what you do to bedazzle your Christmas tree. I hope that both you and your family have a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful holiday season. Thank you so much for watching. And I've also added a link to some other beautiful, quick and easy Christmas DIY gifts that you can create for loved ones in your family. If this isn't the one for you, check out some of the ones down below.